Good afternoon. My name is Amol Nirgudkar. I'm the CEO of Patient Prism, and I am here with my dear friend Holly Mitchell from New York, from the LeadWell Network. And Holly is an exceptionally gifted individual, coach, consultant in dentistry, and she has inspired many people, including me, in becoming a better version of ourselves. Um, and Holly is going to talk to us about how she really energizes the teams and the doctors in dentistry to perform at their peak by tapping into neuroscience and all the cool things which I can't explain, but she'll explain better. And the topic of today's webinar really is how to lead calmly and confidently during this time. How do you self-regulate your nervous systems in times of stress? And at least as far as I know, I've never been, all of us have never ever imagined being in the situation we are in today, right? Nobody, we watched that movie Pandemic, but it seemed like fictional, but now we're in it, and all of a sudden we seem to be crippled as far as what we can do. We're sitting in our houses and so forth. So really it's important for us to manage our stress better and to provide leadership to our people, including our family members, our team members at the dental offices, and to our patients. So Holly is the founder of LeadWell Network. She does a tremendous amount of leadership development. She was the CEO of one of the most successful dental practices in America at CPW Dentistry. And one of Holly's strengths, teaching acceptance, which is also very cool. So Holly, welcome. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you, Amol. Thanks for I'm happy to be back with you.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, we'll meet soon, I'm sure, when this is over. So tell us more. Tell our audience. I'm very excited about LeadWell. Tell us what LeadWell does.
Sure. Well, I'm a speaker, coach, and hypnotist for dentists. And I teach dentists and their teams how to increase case acceptance using hypnotic language patterns and incorporating neuroscience and behavioral economics into the patient experience. So what are the things that make a patient more likely to say yes? And a lot of that has to do with creating a culture of yes and a foundational culture, which I talk about baking cookies. So your culture is your oven, and
Right.
you have to have that warmth in the culture. You have to have that oven turned up. And every single point in the patient experience is heating up that oven so that you can ultimately bake cookies, which is your case acceptance. But you can't bake cookies in a cold oven. So we have to be able to know how to create that culture. And it's really the neurochemical state that we're in, which is high levels of dopamine and serotonin, those feel-good chemicals.
And that's why people see so much results with your consulting work and coaching work, because you go to the foundation of what makes people tick and the neuroscience behind it, and how do you get people to actually change behavior. And that's and you can say the culture word, everybody, it's overused, right? Everybody says, oh my God, we need to go to culture, but you can't buy it off the shelf. You got to really get into people's insides, which is what you do at LeadWell, to kind of actually promote the change and in people and get those cookies baked at the perfect temperature. So it's fantastic. And we'll at the end of this presentation webinar, we'll leave your contact information for our viewers to see that. But let's get back to our topic today, which is leading calmly and confidently. Obviously, I wake up every morning and I have this underlying level of stress because of what's going on, and I attend a lot of webinars with people everywhere, and I talk to people all day long. I'm on phones. There's some people who are calm and collected and positive, and then there's some people who are just very anxious. They're just scared. So what is that? Like, why are some people this way? I mean, there's obviously all kinds of people, but some are calm and some are anxious. What are the reasons for that?
Well, what's happening inside of our brains when we're feeling stressed is there are stress hormones floating all around, and that would be hormones like cortisol and norepinephrine or adrenaline. And this is very common for our patients. When they come into our practice, they're in a stress state, a state of cortisol, or if they're a phobic patient, that'll be that adrenaline, that peak kind of phobic energy. And so I live in New York City, which is the epicenter of what's happening right now. And even before the coronavirus, there was always this low burn of cortisol living in New York City because your nervous system is constantly being stimulated by sounds and sights and smells and people getting on the subway every day. So in order to be able to access that feeling of well-being, that feeling of calm, we have to be able to shift our nervous system out of fight or flight and into the chemicals of serotonin and dopamine, which are those feel-good chemicals. And when we can do that, we can influence the neurochemical state of whoever we're interacting with. Because science has discovered these things called mirror neurons, and it's the reasons that we learn as babies. We mimic our parents. We mimic their facial expressions and the sounds that they're making. And so we're hardwired to mimic those around us. So as leaders, we can set the neurochemical tone for the entire practice. And if the team is in a state of serotonin and dopamine, we're able to influence and shift our patients out of fight or flight, out of cortisol and adrenaline.
So the people, and then it's safe to say that people who are anxious don't have a lot of serotonin or dopamine in them.
Naturally.
Okay.
Naturally, and I'm one of those people who was born the exact same way. My family has a history of mental health issues. My father and my brother both suffered from depression and anxiety. And as a child, I suffered with panic disorder all the way into my late 20s. And this is how I found my way to this work and finally understanding that it's actually not me, it's my nervous system. I won the genetic lottery, unfortunately, when it came to having a set point of neurochemicals that just I have to manufacture my own. They don't come as naturally to me. And when I figured out that I could change it, it changed everything.
So it really is very much chemical based in terms of what you feel, and you can create those chemicals in your body by I guess some techniques. You talk about a concept called zone of tolerance. What is that?
So this is when I figured out that it was my nervous system and it wasn't me, that I'm not an anxious person, that I just experience anxiety probably more than the average person because of genetics, and life experiences create trauma and make us more likely to have these chemicals more easily accessible. And then maybe environment, like living in New York, or habits, certain circumstances. So they're always influencing our neurochemical state. Now the zone of tolerance is that feeling good space. So if you remember the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears?
Right.
So she breaks into the cottage, right? She's hungry. She sees the 3 bowls of porridge. And the first bowl of porridge that she tastes is too hot, right? And that's that anxiety energy. That's that hyper arousal state. And then the second bowl of porridge that she tastes is too cold. Right. That's that slow, lethargic, depressed energy. And the third bowl of porridge is just right. And that's the zone of tolerance. And that's where we want to live and work, because we have more access to all the good parts of us when we're feeling our best. And we can change it. We can shift when we're too hot back into that zone. And when we're too cold, regulate up and back into the zone of tolerance to serotonin and dopamine.
So it really is the reason why some people are calm or some people are anxious is really has to do with the chemical balance within their systems, and those chemical balances can be imbalances can be perfected by doing things. So the question then becomes is, when you feel anxious, right? What should you be doing? Because obviously we all are in that state of mind every day. These days, especially a lot more than others. And so we need to know, right? Okay, I'm anxious, and I need to figure out how to go to the third bowl, the third scoop, which is I want to get to that, or maybe I may not be able to get completely happy because it may not be possible, but somewhere I can tolerate it, where I can use my energy for productive purposes and not for unproductive things. So what do you do, right, when you feel anxious? Are there some techniques that we can do to shift the balance and release those chemicals?
Absolutely. And it's just mental fitness. We're training our brains. Just like we train our bodies, we need to train our brains to get back in the zone so that we can perform at our peak. So for me, and every person is different, how anxiety manifests.
Sure.
So my anxiety, when it's kind of starting to happen, I notice it first in my jaw. It feels really tight, and I might feel some constriction in my throat. How do you kind of feel your anxiety appear?
Yeah, I think it's in my tummy. I think I feel a little, I feel a little sweaty. I'm a little warmer, and my tummy feels a little odd.
Yeah.
My hands feel a little sweaty, and that's pretty much it. And I until I'm past that, I'm in that state.
Yeah, and that's so normal to have it come in your stomach, because the vagus nerve has a lot to do with how we regulate our nervous system out of fight or flight. And the vagus nerve is the largest nerve in the body, and it wanders all around through your organs and down into your belly. So we have to be able to access the vagus nerve to stimulate and regulate us up. So what happens when you're too hot is, the first thing that I like to do is called bilateral stimulation. So
Okay.
when you're in fight or flight, you have an excess of energy going to your amygdala, your lizard brain.
Okay.
And that happens to be right back here on the base of your skull on the right side. So
Okay.
all of your resources are going back there
Okay.
to keep you alive, right? And so the reason that this sucks so much is because all the good parts of you are on the front side of your body. So there's two branches. There's the ventral branch and the dorsal branch. The dorsal branch is your fight or flight, back here, your lizard brain. The
Right.
ventral branch is your executive decision-making function.
Sure.
Your IQ goes down as soon as you're stressed. Stress makes us stupid, unfortunately. And your compassion is on the front side. Your ability to connect with other people, to read empathy, to read facial expressions. So your ability at influencing other people, as soon as you're stressed out, whoop, that goes offline, and it goes all the way back here. So that energy is stuck. It's stuck in that part of the brain. And so what we need to do is we need to move it around. So
Okay.
we've got to direct that energy to other parts of the brain. So I'm going to grab my glass of water here, because this is something that's easy to do.
Okay.
You can grab an object and just pass it back and forth across the midline of your body.
Okay.
Yeah, your phone, a pen, bottle of water. And what you're doing is you're redirecting that energy toward the other hemisphere of the brain. Now, what's
Interesting.
awesome about this is you can do it with an object, or you can do it walking, which is what Steve Jobs used to do. He would go on walk and talks, because he found that people were more creative when they were walking. And it makes sense, because they're accessing both sides of their body while they're walking. They're not nervous talking to the boss, and they have more access to their creativity and their executive function.
So bilateral, both sides of the stimulation allows you to do that,
Yes.
and it pulls that stuff from back of the back of the brain to the front
And
somehow.
starts firing up those other pathways and chilling you out.
It's fascinating. Okay.
That's the
That's
first
strategy number one. Okay.
Strategy number two this is very, very useful right now, by the way, is called havening, and it looks like giving yourself a hug. So havening, they've done a ton of studies on havening
Okay.
in trauma survivors and how to get them out of fight or flight state. So it looks like giving yourself a hug. You start at the top of your shoulders and apply pressure, moving down your arms towards your elbows, from your shoulders to your elbows, just like this. And we all really need hugs right now.
Interesting. Huh.
Especially with the social distancing.
That's right. I mean, we are okay to hug ourselves. So all you go, you can hug yourself all day long.
So this accomplishes two things. Number one is it's bilateral stimulation.
Correct.
Because I'm moving both sides of my body. The other thing that it does is when you're stressed out, your brain waves, if they were to hook you up to a monitor,
right,
your brain waves will be going very fast. Right? That's beta frequency.
Okay.
And it's this, when you've got like ADD brain, you're like, and this, and this, and this, and I got to take care of this, and I got to take care of this.
Yeah.
Right? That's your beta brain.
Right.
So when you do this, it shifts your brain out of beta into delta.
Oh.
Delta waves are created in the brain when you do this, because there are nerve endings right underneath the surface of the skin that when you apply pressure on the upper body, it's the same thing that if you could do it on your forehead too, assuming you've sanitized your hands, which I have. But a mom kisses their baby right here.
Right.
So, and swaddling calms newborns. Those anxiety blankets calm dogs, calm people with autism or ADHD. So this pressure creates delta waves in the brain, and it slows that frequency way down. Delta waves are the same waves that happen when you're in deep REM sleep and when babies are in the womb.
Interesting. I'm sure they have done studies on people hooking up to monitors and looking at how you become from beta to delta.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating.
As leaders, if we can access the brain states, the brainwave states that are going to make us more effective, it's a game changer. It's the same reason why they recommend meditation, because meditation pulls you out of beta into alpha. And alpha state are the most focused states for memory and concentration.
That's interesting. I had not learned the science behind this. Obviously, we all know meditation is good, but this I mean, just the talking about this, right, and then doing this stuff, and it has put me at maybe at 20% at ease, and I feel better already just hearing about it.
Yeah, these are tools. It's just mental fitness, just practicing these new tools.
So we got bilateral simulation, we got havening.
Yes.
We got some more tips.
I do. And this one's really important for dentists. And
Okay.
it's very, very simple.
Right.
Remember we talked about the tummy? How
Yes.
important it is in regulating our neurochemicals and our nervous system. So your serotonin is made in the gut.
Okay.
That's your well-being chemical. That's the one that makes you feel at peace. Now, as dentists, they're hunched over all day, and they've cut off supply to their belly breathing, to their stomach.
Right.
So all we need to do is do deep breathing all the way down into our belly, and what I call booty breathing,
Right.
all the way down into our booty.
Right.
When we sleep, we actually breathe into our booty. And that's the base of the vagus nerve. And so when we breathe down there, and if you do 4 in, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8 out, and it takes a little practice to do 4 and 8. You might get 4 and 5, and then 4 and 6, 4 and 7. But by the time you can do 4 and 8, and if you're breathing and watching that right below your belly button move, that booty breathing, what you're doing is you're stimulating the vagus nerve, which tells your nervous system, I'm safe. And because you can exhale twice as long as you inhale, you're also telling the brain, hey, we're not starved for oxygen right now. We're just sleeping.
Interesting. And that's how the meditation and the diaphragmatic stuff has those effects, because it takes your brain out of that mode, and then you're shifting it to the right mode and bringing them back to front. So Obviously yoga has talked about this for years, right? The concept of breathing from the diaphragm below. And I think and that puts you're saying that puts you right away in a state. It could literally change your state in 2 minutes.
Yes, yeah, sometimes seconds. And that's really the thing. We all have bad days, right? We're having bad weeks, bad months right now, right? It can derail you for a year, 5 days, 5 minutes, 5 seconds. It's, can I get myself back online?
Right.
To be the best parts of me, the thinking parts of me, and the heart-centered part of me, and the part of me that feels good. I am in control. It changed my life when I was able to do this. I really struggled with anxiety my whole life, and I would go into the shower and cry, and I suffered from panic attacks and chronic pain, and my anxiety really took a toll on me. And when I figured these things out that were so simple, but I could incorporate them into my day, I felt like myself. And then all I wanted to do was share it with other people.
Fantastic. So we've got booty breathing, havening, bilateral stimulation. I think you have 3 more techniques that we're all excited to learn. So what's the 4th one?
So this one is my favorite for the entire dental industry. It's flossing.
Oh.
Another reason to floss.
Not the dance or not the floss, but this is the 3rd type of flossing.
Well, like literal flossing. So what happens when you floss is bilateral stimulation, because I'm using both hands. Right. But also when you drop the jaw, it stimulates the vagus nerve. And it tells you that you're safe. Because when you're sleeping on a plane, right, you're like, and you got your mouth wide open because you're so relaxed and you just like let everything go. It's telling your nervous system, hey, we're good. We're all relaxed here.
So this is actually the dental floss. This is
actually flossing your teeth will downregulate your nervous system and make you.
Holy cow! That's another reason to floss. That's good.
Do you know how I figured this out?
Yeah.
I was having a boy trouble.
Yeah.
And I was having a really bad day, and a guy made me cry. Right. And I was crying, but I was also getting ready for work, right? And so I was crying, and I started flossing, and I stopped crying. And I was like, what just happened to me? And then I realized, oh, I was doing bilateral stimulation, and I was dropping my jaw. And sure enough, like I did a little Googling, and I was like, yes, this is exactly right. Flossing can de-stress you.
That is unbelievable. Actually, this is cool. This is really cool. I think we're gonna have so the dental industry. I mean, obviously they believe and they preach flossing a lot. So if they only do it more, that could be obviously keep them healthy and mentally and physically both, right?
Yes, all the perks.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So the one last one I'll give to you is this is really, really good for stopping panic attacks.
Okay.
It's called EFT, and it's tapping on acupressure points in the body. So this one accomplishes. It also accomplishes delta waves. So delta waves are added into your brain and wash away that beta frequency. But you're going to start at the top of your head.
Okay.
And you just tap right there. And then you go to your temple, above the eyebrows, cheekbones, chin, chest. And you can notice even my breathing just shifted. Under the armpit, top of the wrist, and right on this karate chop point on the side of your hand. And you can do that 3 times.
Okay.
And I have stopped panic attacks right in the middle.
Oh, wow. And what's the science behind that?
It's you can look it up. It's called emotional freedom technique, EFT, and
Okay.
it's just stimulating different nerve endings and acupressure points, and it regulates the nervous system.
This is so fascinating. We could do a whole class on these techniques, because I think I'm fascinated by them. I'm definitely going to do some of these things, and it's simple things, right? It doesn't require us to do enormous amount of physical activity. You can do this sitting anywhere, and just change your pattern. So what's the difference, right? People use the word "I'm depressed" a lot these days. Oh, I'm in depression versus I'm in anxious. What are the differences between being anxious and being depressed?
Well, what it feels like in the body is when you're in a depressive state, everything slows down. And there's a lot of lethargy, there's lack of motivation, right? You're completely shut off from the front side of your body, so you don't really have any desire to engage with people, engage with activities. It's like being frozen.
Okay.
Your motivation and you feel locked in one place, and it's that same fight or flight. It's just manifesting in hypoarousal. So everything in the nervous system is slowing down. Now, we all experience depressive states,
Right.
states where we don't, days when we don't feel like getting out of bed really or really doing anything, right? And, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have been diagnosed with depression, but we all experience symptoms of hypoarousal or depressive states.
Sure.
And there are pharmacological ways to address these situations. I have always been someone who's been very sensitive to any pharmaceuticals, and so I would rather manufacture my chemicals on my own in other ways, like changing my habits, right? What's my
Right.
morning routine? What are the foods that I put in my body to produce more serotonin in my gut? There's a lot of other ways that we can manufacture those chemicals. So I'm just giving people options.
So hypoarousal, which means low level, hypo means lower, right? And versus hyper.
Too cold, yeah.
But then what is, so what is the difference between that and anxious? Is anxious hyper?
Hyper. So
Is that,
everything's hyped up. Everything's moving quickly, and the nervous system is overstimulated. Yeah.
I see. So both these situations make us, um, I guess, sad. Is that, or not necessarily good? There's good anxiousness too, right? I mean, you're anxious before a big talk. You're anxious, but you're anxious about what's happening, right? And the TV is playing all day. Not that I turn it on, but if you turn it on, you're going to get anxious because there is all this news about death and destruction and PPE and all that stuff, right? That makes you anxious. Doesn't necessarily make you depressed, makes you anxious. But does that anxiousness eventually lead to depression?
Depends on the person. Sometimes anxiety, sometimes stress shows up in the form of depression. So we all react to what's going on differently. And the goal is we want to be able to perform no matter what. We don't want these experiences to be debilitating or to rob us of our faculties and
Sure.
to rob us of our ability to connect with other people, engage in our creative strategy to bounce back. So some people in this time may be experiencing hypoarousal, and that's how stress is showing up for them. And they don't want to talk to anybody, and they want to withdraw, and they want to shut down, right? So that would be an example of a depressive response.
So obviously, um, we're all going through some level of it today. You told us about how do you look at anxious and how do you get rid of anxiety, but what about depression? Are there some easy ways, like we dealt with anxiety and the stimulation, havening, and breathing? Are there some easy techniques and tools that you have in your toolbox to deal with combating depression?
Absolutely. And if you think about it, it's too cold, so we have to heat the person up, right? And even if it feels really hard to get out of bed, imagine the house is on fire and jump up, because there's going to be a lot of energy that you have to generate for your body to shift you out of that cold state and get you back into that zone. So rigorous exercise. My father suffered from depression, and this was the only way that he felt like himself, was to vigorously do cardio and weightlifting every single day so that he could function. So rigorous exercise, go for a run, boxing, just get your heart rate up. And you will find that it will shift your state, right? There's endorphins that are going to come. Those hormones are going to start to wash away the cortisol. The serotonin and the dopamine high that you get after a workout is going to make you feel a lot better. So, turn up the heat, get a sweat on, right? So that would be the first thing that you can do. The second thing that you can do is put on a great song and dance it out.
Oh, yeah. Like Grey's Anatomy. I mean, don't they dance it out in that thing?
That's right.
They're always dancing out, because they're under so much stress. I'm like, let's dance it out.
Dance it out.
Even if you cannot dance, you should still try it. Because who cares, right? Who cares?
Who cares? You're moving both sides of your body and you're getting your heart rate up. So if your team is in a bad mood or in a funk, if you're working together, turn on a song and tell everyone this is an order. You must shake your booty.
And you could do this over Zoom too, right? You could do this today over Zoom. You could have your entire team get the music on and just start dancing.
Absolutely. And the songs help too, because if you got a good song on, it's going to serve as a positive anchor for you. It's going to have positive associations, and those memories will change the neurochemical state of your brain.
Interesting. So exercise, dance, what else?
What else? You could also, spicy foods tend to give your body and your nervous system a kick. So I don't know. I think you like spicy foods.
I was born with spicy food. I come from India. We are the land of spices.
I remember you took me to the best Indian restaurant in New York. It was so delicious.
Wasn't it good? I mean, yeah, the Queen Isabella told Columbus, go find me some spicy food, because she probably was depressed and she wanted some cumin seeds. So she sent over Columbus, landed over here, called these people Indians, but we were the Indians. But no, spicy food, yeah, I can do that, right? The dancing, not my thing, but I'll give it a shot a little bit. Being active, for sure, it does help me a lot.
Even if you can't go out for a workout, you can get your breathing to mimic the breath that you would do during vigorous cardio exercise. And this is called a fire breath, right? Breath of fire. And it's really easy to do. You're going to put your arms up and then pull your fist down like you're doing a pull-up, right?
Right.
And then you're going to breathe in and out your nose really quickly while you do that.
And you do this stuff. I remember who popularized this
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins. That's right. I think I remember this technique. I think he had made everybody do at the UPW thing, and he was doing this. It's quite, you could hear his breathing, because he's just like that on the microphone, and it was like, wow, this is it sounded like a dragon breathing fire. And that's probably what it's fire, the breath of fire, right?
Yes, and bring a tissue. Because you're going to have a little bit of an issue at the end.
And again, these are techniques, you can do them easily, sitting in your bed, sitting in your chair while you're working on a computer all day, which what we're doing all day these days. We're sitting in one place. I have a studio light up here. And I'm doing a lot of these things, but I can easily do them. I don't even have to give an excuse that, I don't have time for this, because it doesn't require you to do anything.
I got so fascinated about what are the ways to naturally manufacture serotonin and dopamine for myself when I was training to be a hypnotist. And then I realized the teams that were doing really well with case acceptance had they were just always in a good mood, right? They were having fun. And then it clicked for me. I realized they're in the right neurochemical state. And so I started to study the neuroscience of influence and how these neurochemicals create the ability to influence other people, because when you're having a good time, when you're in a good neurochemical state, people don't know why, but they feel good when they're with you and they
So
want to
you
come
can
back.
almost pass that state, your state, to somebody else, especially a patient who's already in a high, and the bar is not that difficult because they already are very, very anxious coming to a dentist. So they're so anxious that any positive um, um, energy that they feel from a team member is only going to reduce their level to the point sometimes where they feel then like trust probably comes from the fact that now you kind of because when you are in a state of panic or anxiety or you don't trust, right? Because you're just scared, and trust loses. So that's probably the psychology behind why you have this amazing results with case acceptance, is because you get through neuroscience, you're able to affect people's way and getting people to trust you, getting patients to trust you and say yes, is a matter of getting them to a better state of being than how they entered your office.
You got it. Trust is a transfer of neurochemicals. And the neurochemical cocktail of trust is high levels of serotonin and dopamine. And
This
so
is
I'd say with your team, invest in comedy, like improv or stand-up comedy training. Like humor is a great way to infuse dopamine and serotonin to build trust with people. If your team is not having a good time, you're not going to be getting people to say yes. So create a good vibes only rule, and you will be very, very successful with your patients.
It is, every time I talk to you, I learn so much, and I try to adopt it in my life. How is it that people can reach you? I mean, obviously, I know how to reach you, but we're gonna when you is it through the website? Just let our audience know how to reach you by email or website.
They can find me at leadwellnetwork.com or
Okay.
on Instagram at LeadWell Network.
Wonderful. We're going to leave this up on the screen so people can, and they can directly send you a message from the website.
Yes, they can.
Okay.
And I would say, leadership, we create the transfer of trust too, right? So as we're asking our team to infuse our patients with serotonin and dopamine, it's
Right.
our job to do the same. And so it starts with being able to manufacture it for ourselves, and then we set the tone for our team. And when we're able to do this, it's transformational. What we're going through right now is so challenging, but there is nothing that binds people together more than a shared experience. So we can use this time to create those hormones of trust
Right.
and confidence. And the neurochemical cocktail of confidence is
Right.
serotonin, dopamine, and testosterone. All the more reason why you should be exercising, because it increases your testosterone, so it's going to make you feel more confident as a leader.
That's fantastic, and I encourage all of you guys to reach out to her. Holly is always been on the forefront of psychology and neuroscience, and that's why she's seen tremendous results with her clients nationwide. Um, and this is foundational work on ourselves. All of us are sometimes go to places where we learn things, and sometimes it's very superficial and we don't go deep enough to really understand why we don't change our patterns of behavior. We go to a seminar, we listen to all the things, we get excited, but when we come back we don't do anything about them. And we really have to understand our own psychology and our neuroscience and our chemicals in our body, so that we can um, you know not only lead, we have to feel good within ourselves to be able to lead confidently and calmly. And once you do that, I think everything falls into place. So thank you so much. This is such a fascinating webinar again with you. And I'm excited to do more as we come along. We'll do some more on case acceptance. We'll do more on how to get back, the whole recovery, and how do we really get back into the swing of things and get back to 100% of production pre-COVID. We'll do some things on that as well. But I encourage everybody to reach out to Holly, and thank you again for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you, Amol. Stay calm, stay confident, and stay well.
Thank you.